커피는 단순한 음료를 넘어 과학이 함께하는 문화가 되어가고 있습니다. 그 중심에 있는 곳이 바로 UC 데이비스 커피 센터입니다. 이곳은 미국 최초의 커피 학술 연구기관으로 커피를 과학적으로 연구하고 교육하는 세계적인 공간입니다. 2025년 2월 저희는 UC 데이비스를 직접 방문하여 커피 센터의 디렉터이신 윌리엄 리스턴파트 교수님을 만나 뵈었습니다. 교수님은 UC 데이비스의 화학공학 교수이자 세계적으로 널리 읽히는 The Design of Coffee의 저자이십니다. 이 책은 현재 한국어로도 번역되어 많은 커피 교육 현장에서 활용되고 있습니다. 윌리엄 교수님은 커피를 통해 과학과 공학을 가르친다는 철학을 바탕으로 이 센터를 설립하시고 연구와 교육을 병행해 오고 계십니다. 커피 센터는 업계의 다양한 기부로 세워졌으며 에스프레소 실험실, 로스터리, 테이스팅 부스 등 현대 커피 과학과 교육에 필요한 모든 인프라를 갖추고 있습니다. 인터뷰에서는 커피의 추출 온도와 맛의 상관관계, 단맛 인식 메커니즘, 결점도 탐지 실험, AI 기반 품질 분석 등 커피의 관능과 화학을 연결하는 다양한 연구들을 소개해 주셨습니다. 특히 추출 온도는 맛에 얼마나 영향을 주는가에 대한 연구는 업계에서 가장 널리 인용되는 논문 중 하나로 많은 전문가들에게 깊은 인상을 주었습니다. 교수님은 지금도 전 세계 대학 및 산업계와 협력하며 커피 교육 커리큘럼을 확장해 나가고 계십니다. 커피를 사랑하는 이들에게 과학의 언어로 커피를 설명하는 곳, 이곳이 바로 UC 데이비스 커피 센터입니다. 지금 그 현장으로 함께 떠나보시겠습니다.
You're in the United States for 2 weeks?
Yes, 2 weeks.
Okay.
We started at LA. We met LA's roasters and Peter Giuliano.
Oh, that's right. You know, I had a long phone call with him yesterday because I talk to Peter all the time.
Yeah.
And he said, "Are you seeing somebody from Korea tomorrow?" I said, "Yes, I am."
He said hello to you.
Oh, very
yes.
good. Okay, good.
Yes, and we met. Do you know Fringe, coffee farmer? Jay Lusky.
I know Jay Ruskin very well.
Yes, we met him.
Oh, do you buy his coffee? His coffee is very expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
We can buy.
Okay. Yeah, but he's a really nice guy. He's very innovative for making
Yes.
farming and
Yes.
coffee in California.
Yes, we met coffee trainers. Do you know Boot Coffee Campus?
Who?
William Boot?
Willem Boot. Yes, of course.
Yes,
Yeah.
we met
This morning.
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will meet University of Oregon's, Christopher Handel.
How did you're meeting everybody famous in coffee on the West Coast. How did you do that? You guys must be famous.
We are the most. We are the most.
No, I think Peter in coffee. Peter is probably most famous.
Yeah.
Chris is also a very smart professor. And Eugene, have you been to Eugene before?
No. First time.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you drive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long drive.
Yeah,
Very
it's
long
long
drive.
drive.
Yeah.
To Seattle, LA,
Oh,
from LA to Seattle driving.
Oh my gosh,
So
that's
tired.
a lot of driving. Wow,
We are
yeah.
from LA.
When you go to Seattle, do you go to the Starbucks Reserve and the Pike's Place and you should go to the Starbucks HQ if you can get in. Huge building.
Yeah.
Huge and very big. It's like it's very fun.
What inspired you to establish the UC Davis Coffee Center, and what is its vision?
So that's a simple question, but there's a very long answer.
Yeah.
So in 2012, my colleague Tanya Kuhl and I were thinking, how can we teach science and engineering at an introductory level? And she said, hey, why don't we have students take apart a Mr. Coffee drip brewer to see how it works? And I thought, well, instead of just one little experiment, let's make a whole class about coffee. And so that's what I did. So I made a class called The Design of Coffee and The Design of Coffee and Engineering Approach, which was, just, as you saw, just translated into Korean.
Yes.
And we started with 18 students, and it is now over 2,000 students per year at UC Davis take that class.
Yeah.
And so along the way, right around 2015, when the class was very popular, I started talking to Peter Giuliano,
Yes.
Rick Reinhardt, people at Pete's Coffee, and I got into coffee because I thought it'd be a fun way to teach,
Yeah.
but they convinced me very quickly that there was huge unmet research and advanced education needs in coffee.
Yeah.
And so we got a founding gift from Pete's Coffee, as I mentioned earlier, this building suddenly became available, which never happens. Never happens in the university.
Yes.
The whole building is empty, and so we were able to move in. And with the support of the coffee industry, we got donations
Yeah.
to build the center. And so that's the long answer. The short answer is I love coffee. So I love coffee, so I wanted to do
Yeah, I
research
love
on coffee.
coffee.
Yeah.
Among the research conducted at the Coffee Center, which project has had the most significant impact on the coffee industry?
Oh, that's a good question. I think of all the papers we've published,
Yeah.
the one that's been downloaded the most is the one about impact of brewing temperature on the flavor of coffee.
Yeah.
And so that is this one. Okay.
Yeah,
so
brew
so my
temperature.
colleagues did this one. This one is probably the most famous
Yeah.
because everybody in specialty coffee
Yes.
sees that.
Yes.
Right. And so maybe that one's the most impactful. The one that I think has been downloaded the most is this one. And that one, basically, what we showed was that it does, over the range at least from about 87 degrees Celsius to 93 degrees Celsius, it doesn't matter what temperature you use to brew,
Yeah.
as long as you adjust other parameters to get the same total dissolved solids and the same extraction yield.
Yeah.
Right, so if you use hotter water, as long as you use a coarser grind size, and you get to the same 1.5% TDS. So people, when they're drinking coffee, ultimately you're sensing, you're tasting that total dissolved solids and the extraction of what did you pull out, not the temperature or the grind size and all the other stuff that you use to get there. And so that was kind of contrary, I think, to conventional wisdom. So I think that one is certainly maybe the most controversial. It's been
Yes.
downloaded the most.
Yeah. Okay. What excites you the most about the interaction between coffee quality and scientific research?
And so, in general, what I'm very proud of for the Coffee Center is we're trying to bring more statistical rigor to answering that question. And so, there's lots of people, lots of entities, as I'm sure you guys know, lots of entities in the coffee industry. People stand up and very loudly say, "This is the best coffee," or "This is the best way to do things." But that's based on one person's taste buds. And the reality of coffee is that you can't really just decide things based on one person. Like you have to have many people taste for consumer hedonic preference testing, right? And so what do people like? And it's very complicated, like different people like different things. But even a simple question like which coffee or which brewing method affects like the amount of berry flavor or fruity flavor in a coffee, even that question, you still need a panel of people because on one day your taste buds might or might not be as sensitive. So what we have, and you saw in the sensory lab, we have lots of booths there so we can do very carefully controlled experiments and get hard data about that question.
Yeah.
And so what I like about the interaction, I like that we're bringing kind of a higher level of scientific rigor to the whole process of trying to answer fundamental mechanistic questions about coffee.
Yes. Okay. Do you see opportunities for the Korean coffee industry to collaborate with the coffee center?
Absolutely. I said that earlier. Koreans love coffee. I love Koreans. Okay, so and like one of the goals for the coffee center is to we're creating a beautiful facility to attract scholars from around the world. So so if there's talented students
Yeah.
from Korea who want to come to the University of California, Davis to study coffee,
Yeah.
we would love to facilitate that.
Okay. I asked you about the design of coffee book. What motivated you to write the design of coffee, and what were your goals for the book?
Yeah, so that book is essentially the lab manual for my class. So my class is called The Design of Coffee and Introduction to Engineering. And it started, that book just started as our handouts to the students.
Yeah.
And they would print them out and bring it. And then we realized it'd be a lot easier if there's a book. And so we published the book. And now we sell almost 3,000 copies per year. So it's a lot. The motivation for the class was how do we introduce fundamental scientific and engineering principles in a friendly, fun way. And coffee is friendly and fun. And so that class is designed as here we call it a general education class. So it's like students majoring not in engineering. So they might be majoring in economics or majoring in English or they major in something else. they take the class to satisfy their science and engineering prerequisite for general education. What I really like about the class is we have 2,000 students per year, and of those 2,000 students, most of them are taken just because it's a fun way to do science and engineering. But there's a fraction, very small fraction, really care about coffee, and we recruit the best of those to come over to this building to do more advanced coffee research. And so the students you saw over there, that's how we help to recruit them. So it's like we call it a magnet course. It attracts students, and then we recruit from that we recruit the best ones from that to do more advanced research.
Okay, cool. The book has been translated into Korean. What message would you like to convey to Korean leaders?
To Korean readers, I mean, like I guess I'd say to Korean readers, I'm very honored that they find our book of interest.
Yes.
One of the things that I'm working on now is having more advanced coffee books, because I think your Korean readers will read that and they'll see that it's not really aimed at the coffee industry. It's aimed at students to teach them science and engineering, and that's different. So right now we're working on books. I'm working on a new coffee brewing handbook. That'll take like this new data that we're pulling and putting it into a handbook. We have something I'm very excited about now is we have a lot of research on coffee roasting and roasting dynamics, the impact of roast profile on lots of different aspects of the coffee quality, coffee chemical composition. As we release those works, I would be very honored if Koreans were interested in having translations of those as well, because those works will be aimed for people in the coffee industry, right? So something that I care a lot about is like translating complicated scientific principles into things that are useful for people who are not trained as scientists. So, a lot of people would read these papers and it's very complicated, right?
Yes.
And so I like working, that's why I work with Peter Giuliano. So we can write, we call it plain English. So not fancy English, plain English, easier to understand things. And so, and that's what I would like to do. I'm doing it in English first, but I would be, hopefully in the future, we have Korean translations as well.
Okay.
So that's where we're like different books for different audience, right? So there's so many people in Korea that work in the coffee industry, and so that's.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
How do you see the coffee center impacting global coffee education?
That's a very good question. So for historical reasons in the West, there has been no coffee curriculum, right? And so if you might have noticed as you drove into UC Davis, big orange buildings, that's the Robert Mondavi Institute for Wine and Food Science. Huge wine buildings. And the wine department dates back to the 1870s, like more than 150 years ago. And that's because we grow grapes here in California, right? Right down the road is. You visit Napa Valley, get some wine. Today you visit. Oh, that's a good day then. Okay, very good. So you need the coffee. But we have right down the road is Napa Valley, right? And so we have a world-class, arguably the best wine department in the world for wine science and wine education. Because coffee is not grown in the United States, there was no government impetus, no support, no funding for coffee. So what that means is that there's no coffee programs, and that lack of coffee education here in the States has had global implications because a lot of universities around the world explicitly modeled their university programs on things in the West, right?
Yes.
For example, one of the best agricultural schools in Latin America is Zamorano University in Honduras. And Honduras makes a lot of coffee.
Yes.
They export a lot of coffee. The university is really close to a whole bunch of coffee farms. They historically have never had a class about coffee, right? And that's because we're collaborating with them now, and they're teaching classes about coffee.
Yes.
And so when the Korean students reached out to us and said, "Hey, can we make a Korean translation of the book?" I was very excited, very honored, and very excited because I would like to help create coffee curricula, not just at UC Davis, but have that kind of serve as a model for around the world as well. And I'm very happy to help with that effort. Certainly, I would read everything in the SCA 25 magazine. There's a lot of stuff that comes out from, like I've written some from these. That's the plain English stuff. So like there's that. Roast magazine has a lot of more sciencey stuff. In terms of formal education, something that the coffee center here is trying to everything takes time. But we're trying to grow a curriculum of workshops aimed at people aimed at people like you. Okay, and so you come spend a week here and like get a lot of lectures and seminars and hands-on stuff, the more advanced cutting-edge stuff in coffee. Yeah, and so we're growing that curriculum right now, and like we're trying to create some online education as well. And if it's online, you can take it from anywhere, right? So.
What has been the most memorable moment in your career combining coffee and chemistry research?
Let's see. That's a good question too. But my most memorable cup of coffee was I was teaching my class in the summer of probably 2016, and I had some exchange students. They happened to be from Japan, and so I had 3 Japanese exchange students. Class of about 50 people. There's one group of 3 students who were in Japan, and my teaching assistant called me over and said, "Professor, you got to taste this." And so I go over and like he said, "This is an amazing cup of coffee." And so I tasted her coffee, and it was like so sweet. It was like brilliantly sweet, had beautiful fruity acidity, not bitter, and like the aftertaste has lingered for like, I remember like an hour later, I was like, "Oh wow, I still taste it. It was still good." It was an amazing cup of coffee. It was so sweet, like just shockingly sweet, and I thought that they had poured some sugar in, and so I said, "Did you put sugar in?" And they're like, "No, Professor, no, we didn't do it." And then I said, "What? How did you make such a good cup of coffee?" And then they started looking around, and they like looked in their notes, and they were like looking, like they had this long conversation in Japanese, and then finally they said, "Oh, Professor, forgive us, but we didn't write it down." And so they didn't know, right? And so that I think to this day was still the best cup of coffee I've ever had, and it was an Ethiopian.
Yeah.
But that's all I know, and because they had like 7 cups of coffee on the table, they didn't know how they'd done that. And we spent the rest of that quarter trying to reproduce it, and we had kind of maybe a little bit close, but it never was that shockingly sweet again. So that coffee motivated me to try to start understanding why does sometimes black coffee, why is it sweet and sometimes not? And so we did, one of the papers on the wall here is sugar chemistry. We like analyzed black coffee, all the oligosaccharides in coffee. They're all below, at least in those coffees, they're all below the human perception threshold. But at the same time, tasters are tasting and detecting sweetness. And so the mechanism for sweetness is one of those unresolved scientific questions about coffee. Everybody wants to make their coffee as naturally sweet as possible, but it's very difficult to understand exactly how that does it. One of the papers up here is also, I'm not sure where it is, but the something called the coffee brewing control chart.
I know.
Yeah. Have you seen the more recent one, the new one? We published a new one, and like and compared to the old one from the 1950s, a surprising thing from many thousands of measurements with our expert tasters, like we're doing lots of data, was that lower TDS was higher sweetness, and so in that left bottom corner of the coffee brewing control chart, that's where natural sweetness is maximized, and then tea-like floral was maximized in the bottom right corner, so high extraction yield. So you asked a simple question: it wasn't really a moment. There was one moment where I tasted coffee. How is this so sweet? And that one moment turned into a lot of research trying to figure out where do you get the sweetness. So.
What are your long-term goals for advancing coffee science?
That's you guys ask really good questions. And so long-term goal for advancing coffee science. So there's both the scientific side. There's also like the kind of funding and logistics side. So like the one challenge and one reason the coffee industry scientifically is behind many other industries is because like there's been a lack of academic focus on it. There's also, as part of that, a lack of funding for it. So the National Science Foundation, for example, doesn't support coffee research. The U.S. Department of Agriculture historically does not support coffee research because there's like so little coffee grown here. And so here at the Coffee Center, like I show you, we sell coffee beans. We sell coffee beans that supports the staff here. But the really expensive thing is students or graduate students. And so to support one graduate student here, it's about $75,000 per year. That's the stipend and the tuition. And they don't pay. We raise funding from industry and to support the grad students to do all this research and stuff. And so I guess to answer your question, like what would I like to do to advance coffee science? I would love to figure out more mechanisms for actually supporting coffee science because I think a lot of people are enthusiastic about it, but like they don't realize that real rigorous science is expensive, and it's good for the coffee industry because we train students in coffee science. Then they go out and work in the coffee industry and elevate the whole industry. So
How many graduate students since Coffee Center opened?
So it depends on how you count. So
Yes.
something I should have, like, I'm the director of the Coffee Center, but there are many professors on campus
Yeah.
associated with the Coffee Center who can use their facilities and resources here. And they all have their own labs in
Yeah.
other parts of campus.
Yeah.
And their own students, some of whom are working on coffee, others not. Here, personally working with me, I have about 4 graduate students right now working on it. So, but then many undergrads. And you guys came on Friday afternoon, right before 3-day weekend, so it's pretty small, right? If you come here this morning, you would have seen a bunch more students floating around doing stuff. Of those 4 students, several, like 2 of them, 3 of them, are co-advised. So like, so it's depends on how you count.
Yes, yes. Okay.
But if I could wave my magic wand, I'd say like, Claudia, you should go work there. Okay. That's the goal. The goal is to create an academic talent pipeline. So people who come do deep studies on coffee, and then they can go work in the industry and bring a higher level of science and academic training to the coffee industry.
Yes. This time it's just starting.
Yeah, no, the coffee center is very much in startup mode. So in one
Yeah.
sense, I've been doing it since 2015.
Yes.
Right. But like along the way, like this building, we didn't open it until last May.
Yes.
Right. So like
Yes.
we didn't have the resources and we're still growing it, and I want to grow the curriculum, make it bigger.
Yes,
And so
yes.
there's a lot of demand for advanced coffee training and education. A lot of
Yes.
demand for like understanding things mechanistically, and
Yes.
that's where we're happy to work on that.
Yes.
Many students will come all over the world after 5 years.
We would be very honored and very delighted to have
Yes.
very smart Korean students coming here. And like that's, I mean, you guys tell me. I mean, like if we organize a 1-week Korean student workshop here, how many people from Korea would fly here and hang out here for a week? Would that be a lot? A few? Like
얼마?
Korean students many interested in America's university.
Yeah.
Yes.
He too.
oh yeah, would you come? Would you come spend a week here?
How can he get into this university?
Oh, that's different. So there's like undergraduate admissions.
Yes.
Professors don't do that. So like
Yes,
you
yes.
have to have a competitive. You have to have a high test score, high TOEFL, high
Yes.
grades, really good letters of recommendation, and then you can come. We have many Korean students on campus.
Yes, all high.
So
All high.
yeah, no, it has to be high. Yeah.
All high. Yeah.
But that's for coming here as a regular student. You can have short courses, and so there's lots of things like a summer, a 1-week or 2-week program,
Yeah.
and like we have a whole global affairs office, and they help create things. They'd hire somebody who's fluent in Korean and English to help,
Yeah.
chaperone and do stuff.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
with enough organization, you can have the students stay in the dorms, the dormitory, like see what that's like here. Take, none of this exists yet for the coffee center, but like there's lots of examples on campus where like the students would come take English class in the morning,
Yes.
right, and then go take coffee lab midday, and then like do something else, right? And they fill up the days with everything, and like that's a nice experience. So.
You speak really fast.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah. I drink a lot of coffee, so I get really. Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate.
Oh no, I'm very honored that you guys.
Yes.
On the list of people who are visiting Peter, Juliana, Willem Booth, Chris Hendon,
Yeah.
in the coffee center at UC Davis.
Yes.
That's like I don't know how you really arranged like a coffee, bigwigs tour.
Yes.
On the West Coast. That's pretty cool.
It is very working, very hard working. Yes.
So how many viewers do you have? Can I ask? How many viewers do you have of your YouTube channel in Korea? 1,400.
Yeah, 1400.
Oh, very
Yeah,
good. Well,
1,400.
that's more than I
Yeah.
have, so that's very good. Okay. Well, I hope this video makes it. You go to 1,500. Get a few more.
It is not a commercial channel. It is channel for our student.
Very good.
Feedback and calibration.
Our student and our consumer.
Yes. And she will write a book about American West Coast coffee people.
very good.
And
very
so put in your interview that book.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, make sure that in your book you emphasize that I said I want more Korean students to come to visit UC Davis.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know it's Valentine's Day, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
So my wife wants to see me. That's
Okay,
all.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, do they do that in Korea? Do you do Valentine's Day?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. You get a lot of chocolate and flowers?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah. There you go. If I back home with that, then you hear everything. Yeah. Okay.
Can I take a picture with you?
picture.
Oh, of course. Yeah, let's do it.
거기 가서 찍자.